aka the Wonder Boy. I'm here to share with you 12 high-intensity exercises as part of the video series I'll be sharing to help you with your fitness goals. These exercises may be taken predominantly as strength exercises if done in separate sets. As these exercises may be deemed to be rigorous, it is better to check first with your physician before you start. If your goal is to increase your endurance capacity in line with your intent to boost your immune system, my recommendation is to do them in circuit or high-intensity interval training method. You may first opt to do a one-to-one routine. For example, 30 seconds workout followed by 30 seconds rest. You may also do 2 sets first. From there, you may progress or proceed increasing the intensity based on your perceived adaptation in your succeeding sessions by increasing the total workout time versus rest or even increasing the number of sets. Ideally, these exercise routine should be done every other day with rest or light workouts in between. And some key reminders. Always warm up before you start a workout. Second, keep hydrated all throughout. And third, after completing your workout, cool down. And also, may I remind you, if you feel dizzy or nauseated or any sharp pain, stop. There will be another day. So, let's stay fit.
The square jumps. Imagine a box of 4 quadrants on the floor. Hop to each corner of the box in a counterclockwise pattern around to the start position as quickly as possible. Repeat, switching directions halfway through. Doing the high knees is relatively simple. Stand with your feet hip-width apart. Lift up your left knee to your chest. Switch to lift your right knee to your chest. Continue the movement, alternating legs and moving at a sprinting or running pace. Here are some tips in doing the reverse crunch. Start lying down with your arms by your sides. Raise your legs so your thighs are perpendicular to the floor and your knees are bent at a 90-degree angle. Breathe out and contract your abs to bring your knees up towards your chest and raise your hips off the floor. Hold for a beat in this position. Then, slowly lower your legs back to the starting position. Moving slowly with complete control is key to the reverse crunch. This keeps the abs under tension for a longer period and prevents you from putting strain on your lower back, which can happen if you rush the repetitions. If you're arching your lower back when lowering your legs, that's a sign you're not moving in a controlled fashion. How to do a top jump. Start by standing with your feet a little less than shoulder width apart. Drop down a little into a quarter squat, then explode into the air. Keep your back straight throughout and tuck your knees up towards your chest as as much as possible before landing as softly as you can. On landing, you can either pause before jumping again, or once you've become more adept at the movement, go straight into another tuck jump. The latter is tough, and it's important to ensure you're not leaning in towards your knees rather than bringing them up to your chest. You can swing your arms to increase your momentum. Aim to both jump higher and get your knees closer to your chest as you become more experienced with the exercise. The Russian twist. Assume a sit-up position with your back flat and abs tight. Hold an imaginary medicine ball with both hands in front of your stomach and bend your elbows so that the imaginary ball is a few inches in front of you. Raise your feet about 6 inches off the ground and bend your knees. Keeping your core tight, slowly bring the imaginary ball to your right hip. Briefly, hold this position before returning it to center. Here's how you do the Bulgarian split squats. First, find yourself a step, bench, or any other contraption that you can rest a foot on. It needs to be about knee height. Second, get into a forward lunge position with torso upright, core braced, and hips square to your body with your back foot elevated on the bench. Your leading leg should be half a meter or so in front of bench. Third, lower until your front thigh is almost horizontal, keeping your knee in line with your foot. Don't let your front knee travel beyond your toes. Fourth and finally, drive up through your front heel back to the starting position. Again, keeping your movements measured. And here's an important Bulgarian split squat form tip to get your right distance. The closer you stand to the bench, the more the Bulgarian split squat will emphasize your quads. Though, if you're too close, it might give you some knee pain. Standing further away will tax your hip flexors more heavily, though it could also strain your groin. Experiment to find a distance that works for you. The supine hip thrusts. Lie face up on the floor with knees bent. Feet planted firmly on the floor with an imaginary barbell resting across your hips. Brace core and press your heels into the floor, driving your hips upwards. Pause at the top, making sure to squeeze glutes. Then return back to starting position in a controlled motion. Here's how you do the sumo squat. Start in a standing position with your feet wide apart and your toes pointing at 45-degree angles. By wide, it is meant wider than shoulder width apart, around a foot beyond your shoulder on each side. Drop into a squat, bending at the hips and knees, and sitting back. Keep your chest up and knees out. Keep lowering until your thighs are parallel to the ground, or even slightly below parallel, if you have it in you. Then stand back up to the starting position. Make sure you don't lift your feet off the ground or round out your lower back as you perform the sumo squat. Here's how to do Spider-Man push-ups. Focus on these points when doing Spider-Man push-ups. First, know the keys for perfect push-ups. Review the keys to a perfect push-up. Things like holding a good plank and keeping the elbows at a 45-degree angle and not flaring at the side. Second, hands go slightly wider. Place the hands just wider than shoulder width apart. The wider stance is more important to keeping your balance later. Third, touch knee to elbow. Lower yourself to the bottom of a push-up. Then bring your left leg up to the outside of your body like Spider-Man climbing a wall. The goal is to touch your knee to your elbow. But don't worry if you can get that far. Fourth, repeat on the other side. Press back up to the top of your push-up, then repeat the same thing on the right leg. Each time you are back in a plank, count 1 rep. The crab march. Begin with fingers pointed relatively outwards as hands are face down on the floor. Arms extended down perpendicular to the floor. Knees are bent to 90 degrees. Then bridge up, driving your hip up into the air, squeezing the glutes, keeping your core tight. Do alternate marching. Bring one knee up and out, toes up simultaneously, while maintaining the tabletop position. Here's a good guide in properly doing the dips. First, sit on your chair or bench with your arms at your side and your feet flat on the floor, hip distance apart. Second, position your hands so that your palms are down beside your hips. Your fingers should grip the front of the chair seat. Third, move your torso forward off the chair with your arms extended. Your buttocks should hover the floor and your knees should be slightly bent. Your heels should touch the floor a few inches in front of your knees. Fourth, breathe in as you slowly lower your body, hinging at the elbows until each arm forms a 90-degree angle. Fifth, breathe out as you push up to your starting position with your arms fully extended. Now, here are some more tips for proper form. Be sure to keep your elbows straight behind you versus splaying them outward. Resist shrugging your shoulders. Keep them neutral with your neck relaxed. Increase the difficulty of this exercise by straightening your legs and placing only your heels on the floor instead of the whole foot. Now here's how to do the burpee properly. Drop to a push-up. Your chest should touch the floor. You can also place your knees on the floor here, which makes the push-up easier. Next, return to plank position. This can be a strict push-up, a push-up from the knees, or not a push-up at all, as in just push yourself up from the floor as you would if you weren't working out. Your choice. Then jump feet back in toward hands. And then finally, explosively jump into the air, reaching arms straight overhead. Then you could proceed to do everything from the top.